Well, hello and welcome back to the garden. It is the month of March, so officially the spring has begun now. And I'm just standing in front of this beautiful forsythia. Yes, I'm in the cottage garden because I do need to balance out the work that's carried out between the kitchen garden, the rose garden, the cottage garden, because otherwise it will become overwhelming. I will be behind of cutting or mulching or something or planting. So it's just something that I need to catch up in here. Now right next to the forsythia here, I do have two smoke bush trees, shrubs. They're like a small tree but a large shrubs. And their branch work is all over the place as well. They're not the nicest looking once they're bare, but their foliage gives a beautiful, beautiful backdrop, and it's such a lovely colour. You just can't replicate that colour with anything else in this area. So what I'm thinking of doing is coppicing it. So that just means is cutting the main branch work down to a stump level off the ground, and that should trigger fresh new shoots coming out of that base area. And I'm just hoping that that will give it more branches as well to work with in this kind of a midsection, mid-level area, rather than being up high. And those high branches are so prone for wind damage, so they get really bent and broken by the winds that are coming up from the valley. And I'm hoping that once I have it coppiced and there's more of them, there's like a more of a thicker branch work in this kind of a height level, it can withstand the winds a bit better as well. Now, coppicing is nothing new. Probably the most common plant that you hear being talked about this coppicing is hazel. But the only time you'd want to be doing this is really during the winter or very early spring, while the plant is still dormant. Hey, what's that under my foot? What's that? How did that get there? How did it get there? Whee! Now, with a cottage garden, the state this area is currently in, I can't just go and start planting into it, even choosing plants and just come straight here and start planting, because the area is not ready at all. So the very first thing was to get rid of all those stones. So there was a lot of stones that were coming out of the ground here when I was putting down the curbs for the path that carries straight through here into the orchard. And when I was also digging holes for the roses and replanting them, and anything that's bigger than a golf ball. So smaller stones, smaller, golf ball and smaller, I'll actually leave them there. They'll just provide drainage for the otherwise heavy clay soil. And any kind of little weeds, any kind of these one-off weeds that were popping out from the edges where the plastic wasn't covering it anymore, they have to come out as well. But as I was talking about flatworms in my last video, knowing now that they're here in the garden, any stone I'm picking up, any plastic that I'm moving that would have been touching the ground, any area that I know would be suitable for slug habitat, I'm also really looking out for this slimy circle by the flatworms as well. And I'm going to be gathering all of them up with the slugs, as many as I can find, and obviously dispose of them. Then obviously any of the big plastic sheet mulching that I've been using to suppress the weeds, and that has been doing an absolute brilliant job. There's not a sign of grass or weeds growing anywhere underneath of it, and it has kept the soil really nice and dry. But also still moving all that, I'm still keeping a really vigilant eye out for any of that flatworm habitat, or if they're resting anywhere. And unfortunately I am coming across some of them, especially the New Zealand flatworm. So there's definitely more of the New Zealand flatworm present than the Australian one. And same goes for the plastic that's around the central circle at the moment where the originally roses were planted into. That has to be removed. And there's even more stones coming off those sheets of plastic, because obviously they were there to weigh down the actual plastic to keep it from blowing away. Now, once the plastic is out of my way, I can see that there's a natural pooling of water. So I assume there's a concentration of clay layer here that's holding the water on the surface and not letting it go through to lower levels. So I'll just see if I can just make some holes into this with a fork. It's just all stone. I have to get through somehow though. Now I do have a couple of these areas here closer to the footpath where I had removed the sheeting earlier, and the grass weeds are starting to sprout up straight away. And rather than starting to weed them out individually, I'm just going to cover these areas with large sheets of thick cardboard, and I'm going to cover these with soil from the central bed, and the combination of cardboard and soil will block the natural light from the weed seedlings and stop them from growing. I want to recover as much of this nice quality compost and organic horse manure I had originally used in the central bed, so I will keep removing it, and what I can't remove I will level out with the rake. What? You afraid that I'll bury your ball? I won't bury your ball. Come on, let's try it. Whee. Whee. Now, once I've finished off spreading the soil from the centre out to the surrounding area here, I can actually start bringing in fresh compost from the big bags in front of the house as well. Now I have these 2 bags of compost and a big bag of wood mulch here that are intended for the cottage garden. Now I have been using some of that compost already for plantings for the kitchen garden as well, and obviously if I have some of it left I will still end up using it all up for the kitchen garden, but otherwise there's a lot here to move. I am going to be sore tomorrow. And because the soil is just all over the place at the moment, it just looks really messy. It's very hard to tell where the planting areas are going to be, where is the new grass side, but it will make sense. Eventually it will make sense, I promise you.